There's a problem with the way we think. We're either engaged in overthinking or non thinking. It's a mess, and sadly, it's not new. We've been doing it for a long time, maybe since we began. As humanity grows and increases its reach, however, its effects are becoming more prominent and perilous. Something must be done. That something is unthinking. Contrary to its name, unthinking takes thinking. But if unthinking isn't non thinking, and it's certainly not overthinking, then what is it? Think of unthinking in terms of your energy. It's a cleaning up of energy, a conservation of energy, a redistribution of energy, and an allowing or unblocking of energy. Just as important as what is the reason why learning to unthink is vital. The reason is because unthinking prepares us for the experience of an encounter with reality. Because reality is an encounter. It's an encounter between the you that's in here and the world that's out there. Sadly, this is a new way of looking at things, but it shouldn't be, because unthinking is a natural way of moving through the world. We all do, but have lost. Children are natural unthinkers. So it's good we're having this talk because we're here to reclaim that ability. We're going to learn, scratch that, relearn to unthink. What follows this informational introduction is a list of things that you can do to put you on a path to unthink your way to a better life. You know, currently we inhabit a world of duality, and there's a fundamental delusion of one part of our mind that we're limited within these bounds. That's a trick designed to drive us into one useful way of thinking while we're here having this physical material experience. But there's also a hidden, more infinite side of us made of things like energy and consciousness, which we occasionally get glimpses of, and another part of our brain also navigates this. Think about this. The sun is always illuminated, even at night. So while we live with the duality of night and day, we're also confronted with the idea of a perpetual sun and the concept of non-duality. Which one is right? And which one is right to live and guide our lives by? The left and right hemispheres of the brain offer us two vital, distinct pictures of the world to help us reconcile and navigate this contradiction. And while they help us in many ways, they're also the primary reason we struggle. What are those views, and why do we struggle with them? Before we go over our list to unthinking, let's take a look at the views of the different hemispheres of the brain based on the research of Dr. Ian McGilchrist, and I think you'll be able to begin to understand why. The world of the left hemisphere is a world of narrow, sharply focused attention to detail. It prefers a decontextualized world, has a disposition for the mechanical, likes abstract maps and diagrams, and it sees the body as an assemblage of parts. It practices clarity and power to manipulate things which are known, fixed, static, and ultimately lifeless. Tools and language are coded in the left hemisphere, so it has a voice in language, and it's self-referential. It's got the advantage of perfection because it shaves off anything from its model which doesn't fit, which it doesn't already know. The left brain prefers executing the world from a representation of life. Think about that word, a representation. And the left brain is mainly concerned with the apprehension of the world, grasping it, controlling it, and pinning it down. The right hemisphere, by contrast, maintains a sustained, broad, open, visual alertness. It understands implicit meaning and metaphor, and it sees an embodied world in context. It plays devil's advocate,
So maybe 30 minutes of
has a disposition for the living instead of the mechanical, and it sees things as existing in relationships. Comparatively, it doesn't have a voice in language like the left. The closest it has is art, music, or poetry. It's comfortable with a continually changing and ambiguous world which is never fully graspable. It sees newness and prefers presencing reality versus a representation. Finally, the right hemisphere concerns itself with the comprehension of the world instead of its apprehension. Now let's take a look at that list of behaviors on the path to unthinking. The first one is the practice of proprioception of thought. This is the foundation of unthinking. It's the combination of awareness, observation, and thought, the voice in your head, in a particular order and sequence. I got this idea from the late physicist David Bohm. Bohm said, the brain is an organ that behaves like a muscle, reflexively. Proprioception is a word associated with our muscles and their oblique movements, and it's the ability to know where your limbs are in space. Think about it. You can close your eyes right now and know what your arms and legs are doing. Proprioception keeps us from slithering out of a chair, bumping into things, or punching ourselves in the face when we take off our glasses or scratch our nose. So, proprioception of thought is the idea that with practice we can gain better control of the organ muscle in our head to achieve greater consciousness. There's a lot more to unpack here, like what normally happens to the thinking process, but all you have to remember to start is awareness, observation, and the voice in your head. The next thing you can do to unthink is to help others. Put others first. I call this a sleight of hand card trick for the brain. When you help others in a task, it opens up a channel for the right hemisphere to take a larger role in participation, humanizing the experience and changing its focus. The next thing is to keep the aperture open. This is a direct path to unthinking. What does that mean? It means to suspend judgment and decision making until a decision has to be made. The next is to not work for money. Work instead for satisfaction. This idea comes from author Jack Canfield. Jack said, working for money is the worst possible reason you can work. He said to work for satisfaction instead. What is satisfaction? Well, the Latin prefix satis means enough. So satisfaction means enough action. Work every day, putting forth enough action to feel satisfied. If you do this, you won't have to worry about money. The next one is to stop filtering and curating things all the time and start discovering again. Break the patterns of a conditioned mind. See the world anew with childlike wonder, with the eyes of a child. Buckminster Fuller said, everyone is born a genius, but the act of living de-geniuses them. Stop de-geniusing yourself and others. The next one is simply to face your fears. Be scared once a day. Get comfortable with uncomfortable. The next one is to know that you don't know everything and know that that's okay. That's natural. Tell others you don't know. They'll appreciate your candor and they'll even start to mimic you. The next one is to realize you are not your brain. You are the user of your brain. This also suggests you're not your behaviors or feelings either. This is what self-awareness brings us. I like to think about traveling through life with three friends. One of my friends is my left hemisphere brain and its perspective of the world and desires. One is my right hemisphere view and its perspective. My third friend are the two views coalesced together. And finally, there's me, looking at all these perspectives, thinking a thought, making a decision, taking an action. The next one is to take back control. How do you take back control? By realizing you don't have control. That's not our job in the universe. I'm not saying to give your power away. I'm saying instead to redirect it. Turn it inside where you can do something with it. The next one is to realize we are a collection of patterns. Patterns of unfinished business and never finished business. Know what that means and what to do about it. Next is to find your hidden values, your non-negotiables. I have my friend Sven to thank for this. Sven said that when you get emotional about something, good or bad, you're bumping up against hidden values that you have. Find out what those are and why you feel the way you do about them. The next one is to create and protect both an open space in the mind and a filled space of structure and routine. My writing partner, Pierre, and I have been writing a series of articles on the universe. And when we first started writing, we said that we thought that life was not either or, but instead it was both and. Now, after a year of writing, we've come to the conclusion that life is both either or and both and. Hold on to that contradiction. Lean into it. The next one is to pick a fight with yourself. Pit your hemispheres against one another. Look for cognitive dissonance when it happens in awareness, perception, and cognition, and even create it. A word of caution, though, the personal ego mind will always fight and resist you and resist over this, both overtly and covertly. The last thing is to embrace asymmetry. Learn to love it. Why? Because asymmetry is more common in nature than symmetry is. There's a part of our brain that loves symmetry, but we love it because it freaks us out. It's unnatural. Think about this. The universe was created with the Big Bang because of an asymmetry between matter and antimatter, with matter winning. We are conscious beings living unconscious lives. You've also heard the saying that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. Both of these things are true. English poet William Wordsworth said, "Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting." I think what he meant by that was that there was something to us before our birth. After we're born, we unlearn curiosity. We filter the filtered and we live curated lives. Children are great unthinkers, but we encourage them to unlearn it. We should encourage them to unthink instead. Maybe then we'd stop de-geniusing them. Get comfortable with raw experience. Notice, chase, and ride flow. Recognize and appreciate your triggers, their gifts. Tell stories, talk in metaphor. These things change your brain. And support, protect, defend, and champion storytellers. Slow down, suspend judgment, ask questions, create an open mental space, and simplify your life. My friend Max said, "There's a misconception that simple means stupid and complicated means smart." That's another argument of just one side of our thinking. Learning to unthink is simple. All you have to do is nothing. I leave you first with a quote from Welsh actor Sir Anthony Hopkins. He sums up the human condition nicely using humor. Sir Anthony said, "We are dying from overthinking. We are slowly killing ourselves by thinking about everything. Think, think, think. You can never trust the human mind anyway. It's a death trap." Last, a question. If this talk has changed the way you think, how? And can you share an example of your own unthinking and ways to incorporate this practice? Thank you.